Welcome back to Amateurish Podcast, y'all. Today we are going to give y'all a Final Four preview and recap the second weekend of March Madness. I hope y'all like the shades.
Yeah, it was chalk. Um, Again, we're not the only people to predict that. Although
Well,
we're
we didn't in our bracket, thanks to me. I insisted that we had Michigan State over Auburn to avoid chalk because I thought, hey, it's March Madness. There's no way there's 4-1 seeds in the Final Four, right? Boy, was I wrong. And every single game was kind of, yeah, you were right, but every single game was kind of not even in hand except for the Florida Texas Tech game, which was a barn burner.
yep.
Um, we had Florida go on a 16-2 run with 3 minutes left in the game to take the win from Texas Tech, just like Texas Tech did to Arkansas.
Although Texas Tech gave
Yeah,
something to
yeah,
because what I learned, and I knew it a long time ago, but it was reinforced, is that 84% don't mean 84% in March. Um, just awful free throw shooting down the stretch, and then just a poor decision on the 10-second call that the foul came right before they were going to get that 10-second call. It's hard to blame the guy because I'm sure he was told if you don't get the steal, foul. But a little more court awareness at that point in time. Texas Tech, scrappy, scrappy, scrappy. We had discussed it that Florida has a lot more size than them, but at sometimes functional size isn't, is JT Toppin plays a lot bigger than he is. He had way over double digits in rebounds, but was really poor at stretches. And if they didn't have Williams get hot in the second half, it might have been a lot more comfortable win for Florida.
yeah. I mean, it took two gutsy performances from Walter Clayton and Thomas Houck. Clayton just losing his mind in the last 2 minutes of the game. Um, and then we also had on that same night we had Duke with Alabama, and they just handled.
Let's go Auburn, Michigan State, because that
They
sets up
outside of the bracket. Okay, so
yeah.
Auburn, last night, Auburn beat Michigan State. Unfortunately for the Tigers, they Janai Broom's health is in question. He was able to finish the game, but it looked like he injured five things at once on this one play. His knee, his leg, his wrist, his elbow. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, he went straight Willis Reed though when he came back in. What a game. I mean, the first 8 points, you just couldn't stop him. And it's not like Kohler is a bad defender or, a small guy. And then they just went away from that. It was like, oh, we're getting bored at this. Let's jack up some threes. And they shot up season average. They took some really ill-advised shots. And when Broom went out, they were up 10, I think, with 6+ to go. You kind of thought, oh, good thing Michigan State, like we talked about, is a very poor 3-point shooting team. Um, they shot just over 30%, I think, in that game, and that was good for them. Um, but they're gritty, scrappy, and Auburn down the stretch missed free throws, some bizarre turnovers. If they play that way against Florida, they lose.
Yeah, and also Janai Broom's not healthy. Luckily for them, they have a week in between games, basically. But I really didn't think the game was ever in doubt. I mean, and going back to their Sweet 16 game, Auburn, they have just so much. Like Tahad Pettiford was the star of that game, and he just killed, or against Michigan, he just killed them. And we thought, we got Chad Baker Mazzaro, who hasn't even been playing his best ball in the tournament. He's had some injury issues. You got just an X factor in Dylan Cardwell. Miles Kelly can heat up at any time. Denver Jones is Mr. Reliable. I mean, they've just got many ways to kill you. And I just thought Michigan State. I mean, I know we picked them, or I picked them, but I don't think the game was and ever in doubt. You want to go to the other side of the bracket now?
So let's preview, and we've already had this game early in February, Florida beat Auburn at Auburn. So we have something to look at here. They're not strangers to each other. And the crazy thing, it was a road win, and they didn't have Elijah Martin. And Martin has been tremendous in this tournament, and
Yeah.
he was prior tournaments
I mean, he's the
for.
only player ever to go to two different Final Fours with two different programs. I think, we'll see more of that with the age of transfer portal and NIL, but the first ever. And I mean, he's shown it that he's on this Florida team. He's the guy that's been there before. He's been reliable. He's been clutch. He knocked down two free throws to seal the deal against Texas Tech. And yeah, being down a starter like that and winning at Auburn when they were number one in the nation at the time, it's probably the best win in college basketball. Now, for the preview part, I don't think Florida's been playing their best basketball in this tournament.
They have not. If go back to that game, it was the stats were very even in that game. Rebounds were, I think, identical. Fouls weren't out of whack. We saw Auburn get a lot more fouls than Michigan State. Um, it was at one point in the first half, it was 6-2, and Michigan State's not a passive team. It's not like you're playing Gonzaga. You're playing a hardcore Big Ten team. So, and the problem is Florida has its turnover rate went up and its fouling has gone slightly up. Um, so yeah, it's going to be. I don't think you throw that game out, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Well, first of all, if Broom doesn't play, forget it.
All
It's
bets are off.
it's
Yeah.
all bets are off. If he plays and he's reasonably healthy, he's bothered sometimes by big size, in which Florida has. And it's going to be interesting to see who steps up as their secondary scorer.
Yeah. With regarding Florida's size, Condon was injured in the Maryland game. He was able to return, but I think he was clearly hobbled against Texas Tech. Just he was getting out rebounded, something that normally does not happen to a player of his caliber. Um, and so yeah, I think it's going to be a battle of the bigs. I think if Florida's four-man rotation can slow down Broom, I think the guards, I think Florida has it on the guards aspect as good as Pettiford and Jones and Kelly are. There's not a better guard trio in the country than Florida. So it's up to the bigs to neutralize Broom. I think that's
Yeah,
what won. Florida out rebounds like they've done all year. Keep no turnovers, they win.
yeah, it's hard to out rebound Auburn. They all three of those front court players, Chad Baker included, hit the boards very hard, and it's going to be interesting to see how Denver Jones matches with Walter Clayton, because Jones is a very good on-ball defender, and Clayton is the killer closer right now.
Yeah.
So,
So
other
now
side,
other side, we had Elite Eight game. Duke handled Alabama. That was, I mean, that was probably the most impressive performance I've seen in terms of holding that offense to 65 points. I mean, I don't think they've gone anywhere near that all year.
yeah, we don't give enough credit to Duke's defense, but
They
they're
are top three
between.
defense,
Yeah.
and that's because of two things.
I,
Versatility, no, 100%. Their versatility and their size. They are huge. They start
yeah, they are.
two. They start 7-2. Coop 6'9", Knipple 6'7", Proctor 6'6", Zion James 6'7". Their shortest player is 6'6".
Yeah, and James is an excellent on-ball defender. They're all physical. I mean, even Knupel, can box around some people.
Yeah.
Um, and their offensive efficiency is really good. They right now they look, and it's scary to say, unstoppable. Um, Flag has gotten a few early fouls, and that could be problematic. Not necessarily maybe against Houston, but if they get to the final game. But yeah, they handled Alabama. Alabama just never got it going. Grant Nelson, they kept talking, oh, Grant Nelson's going to be a different test for Cooper Flag. As much as I like Grant Nelson, same old story with Cooper Flag.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one thing about Duke, a lot of people have been saying this, they haven't really had a close game in 2 months. Um, and that's not a bad thing. Obviously, you're winning games by a big margin, but it's going to be interesting to see, especially since we know, I'm not going to lie, I think they've lost every close game. We have Mr. Flag slips a lot, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Um,
about the only thing you can say bad about the kid right
oh, especially like this tournament, he's been unbelievable.
now. By the way,
Game against Arizona, which, well, let me talk about one thing with Arizona. What That was the most Caleb Love way to go out for Caleb Love.
yeah,
Like dropping 35 on Duke, and it was just like, but then there was also some like he took some bad shots that were just ill-advised. I mean, the one that notes out sticks out to me, and it kind of I think turned the tide of the game right before halftime. They had an opportunity to kill the shot clock, and Caleb Love comes on the court, and with 10 seconds left, he shoots a bad deep three. Duke gets the rebound. Cooper Flag comes down, hits a three to go up six at halftime, and they could have tied it up if they got a better look, Arizona. And I think that kind of changed the tide of the momentum in the game. But regardless, Love killed him. Like he 35 points, and it was just like that is just Caleb Love in a nutshell right
it's
there.
clear. Yep,
I mean,
100%. And
Flag also was unbelievable in that game. I guess that was a close game. I said Duke really hasn't had one, but hey, it didn't really come into doubt, especially when they kept fouling Knipple. That kid's not going to miss two free throws. I mean, we're talking about 84%, whatever. Knipple's above 90, and he's not missing two free throws.
no, that's all you do in Wisconsin. I mean,
Yeah, you sit there and you just
in the driveway, in the snow, you clear out a little patch so where the ball lands from the free throw, it doesn't get wet. Yeah, no, he's a good free throw shooter, and at times he's been really good. And Tyrese Proctor elevated the game at the right time. The basket must look like an ocean, like the Pacific Ocean to him. Like he just wow, he
yeah.
checks the fly. Um, yeah, they've been unbelievable. Now we look at the alternative, Houston. We knew it was gonna be a rock fight with Tennessee. It pretty much was, although it was pretty one-sided. Houston
Yeah,
was throwing,
it wasn't a rock fight so much as it was Houston throwing rocks at Tennessee. They were stoning them.
yeah,
I mean, I think they had 13 points at halftime, Tennessee.
it was the lowest ever in an Elite Eight game for any
And
half.
and I mean, I going back to our preseason preview, I was lower on Tennessee than you, and you're like, well, they made the Elite Eight. I don't really care because this showed exactly what I thought was going to happen, Tennessee. Their offense stinks. It's stinky.
Yeah,
Chast shot 4 for 18.
they had two. They have two scorers, Lanier and Ziegler.
And
And
Ziegler's
Ziegler,
the past first point guard.
yeah, but he still averaged 15 on the
No.
season.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I'm saying that he's still looking to pass first.
Yeah, and it was I was watching the game with a Tennessee alum who shall remain nameless, but I kept saying, "Look, they don't have anybody. There's no Dalton Connect's not walking through that door."
Yeah.
And the foul discrepancy in that game was ridiculous. At one point, it was 16-6 in favor of Tennessee. In other words, only six fouls have been called on Tennessee. And again, they're a defensive team. They're going to foul you. And it was just at some point, I don't remember if Stan was calling this game, Stan Van Gundy. Oh, yeah, there was a where the announcer said, "Oh, he went over the back." The kid went over, I think it was France Roberts went over Meshack. And I said, without pausing, no, Meshack had him held. Stan's like, that's not that they should have called that foul. Rick Barnes should be upset. They come back from break. Gene Steratore like, at worst, it's a double foul, you know. And it's just been, but no one commented, hey, Tennessee is a strong defensive team. They're physical too, and they have 6 fouls called on them. The discrepancy in fouls, Houston, this is the single biggest thing they have to worry about in that game. They don't match up height for height, but they don't need to.
They have size with their how long their arms on. They got Juwan Roberts and JoJo Tugler with both 7'6" wingspans. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and Francis is, I think, has a very
Right.
long
Yeah.
span. Yeah. The problem they have there is some of their guys don't shoot the free throws very well. They've had, a propensity for picking up fouls. But we talk about how it's a negative for Duke not to have played these close games. Houston's only losses were, I think, three in overtime, to some very good teams, and they have a common opponent in Alabama. And if you look at
That
they,
was early in the year though.
yeah, obviously they're, Duke's playing at a much
And
higher level
and
now.
yeah, and I also think, Houston has been the most tested one seed in this tournament, not in a good way. They've Purdue, I'll talk about that in a second, but Gonzaga almost came back on them. They had a chance to tie the game. Purdue came down to the last shot. Those are two teams that I didn't think would hang with Houston. Um, and they did. And I think I've been saying this kind of for a while now. I think Houston's lack of a traditional guy is going to hurt them. LJ Cryer has not been shooting well. Milos Uzan has actually been their guy in the tournament. Um, and going to the Purdue game with that out of bounds play, I was watching it and I said when I was like, if I'm Purdue, I do not want to guard Houston on an out of bounds play right now because of their length. I just thought that they was going to get a lob situation. But what happened, I don't know if y'all were watching, but Purdue's system, they send the guy who guards the inbounder, who's always Braden Smith, to guard the cutter or the guy receiving the screen, and then the guy the original guy guarding that takes over Braden Smith. What happened was they've been doing this. That's their out of bounds defense. They did it earlier in the game. Kelvin Sampson, being the basketball savant he is, drew a phenomenal play where he sent two guys to the strong side corner to occupy that. And the guy coming off the screen was going as far as possible away from the basket. So Braden Smith had to go super far, and the guy who's coming to recover for Braden Smith had to travel very far. That's why when they got the inbound, boom, they gave it right back to the inbounder. It was open for as long as it was. And if you watched it, I didn't know this. I had to watch a breakdown about this. I'm like, where's Braden Smith going? He sold the game for them. But no,
No.
that was Purdue's strategy. He did what they've been doing all year. It was just Kelvin Sampson outcoached Matt Painter in that instance. And it really was just a battle of the brains right there.
Yeah, I'd love to know if it was on the fly or if they went into that game knowing, hey,
Yeah.
they're going to do this. I mean, I don't break down film of Purdue, so I don't know if they always do that. But yeah, you could tell that the other kid, it was 0 or 2, I forget.
Communication.
He just didn't rotate over. I mean, he did contest close to
Yeah,
the
but
rim,
he
but
yeah, he got there in time, but it was late. You're not going to stop a high level athlete an open basically dunk.
yeah, I didn't understand. I don't understand the mindset of why Smith would rotate off to the cutter when the guy's already out there. Like
The
you
the
the pass back is always coming
Yeah,
back to
no, but the thought
the
process behind it is because I saw examples of when it worked to perfection
yeah.
is when he neutralizes the cutter, and the guy rotates in time, it's basically taking away the main option of the play without sacrificing anything.
Although according to Sampson, this was the third option. And from having played and I know from having coached, when I draw up an inbounds play, I have four options. Um
I I I mean I was watching the play, I watched the breakdown. I don't think that was the third option because the
so
two guys, huh?
Sampson insisted.
I understand that, but two guys ran directly to the strong side corner, like together, no spacing, and it seemed like it was just strictly to occupy those defenders. And then the guy going off, I mean, unless they were going to the weak side corner three, um, which that could have been the first option. But I thought, regardless, it was a beautiful play.
Yeah. Well, and also the big who got the ball, I don't remember if it was Francis or Roberts, made a
I think it was
fantastic
Roberts.
decision.
Oh, no, it wasn't Roberts. It was Tugler, actually.
Tugler, right, made a fantastic decision and pass. Really good stuff. Great ending. You know, it'll be interesting to see because this is truly a styles clash, except Duke plays good defense. And if Houston can't hit some of those shots, um, then it's going to be pretty one-sided. Even
My,
though
my prediction here is if Pryor isn't there, Duke all day. I think Duke's going to win probably regardless, but I'm saying it's Duke all day. Like the game won't be close.
yeah, I've seen Sharp though have some huge games when Cryer's
He hasn't
off.
had huge games this tournament. It's been all Uzon, which is like he's a third guard.
I think he had 21 in
Sharp
a
has
game
not been that guy.
2 games ago. Yeah, I mean he hasn't always been that guy, but I think it's within him. It's interesting. Um, Really a shame because last year they lost Shed before the game and then or during the game, I don't remember. And then they're gonna face a juggernaut now.
Yeah, but it's like at the end of the day, it's you're in the final four. It's not like you're facing them in the round of 32. Like this is what you're asking for. You can't be like last year was a fluke and then we got screwed this year. Like no, you're in the final four. Like you are 2 games away from cutting down the nets. It's like when San Diego State went in 2020 when they had that magical season with Malachi Flynn and it got canceled because of COVID, and then they made it to the championship game. It's like there you go. The karma has been given to you. You know,
it's a
or like
little
Kansas. Kansas was the favorite to win in 2020. Their team was unstoppable. 2022, here you go. Take the championship. It's like it all works out in the end.
a little different because Samson doesn't have a title, and I think Self does. And who was coach of
Brian
San Diego?
Dutcher did. Brian Dutcher.
Dutcher, but I think Dutcher coached with Fisher.
No, but it's like that was like the best San Diego State team in like forever.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Um, so we fully expect a Florida Duke final, it sounds like.
I mean, yeah, but with all one seeds, and that I mean, these have been the four best teams all year long. Um,
And Alabama. But I agree. Yeah, you were chalk.
I
And
mean,
we've talked
Duke
about it.
and Florida are both top six in Ken Palm ever. They have two top six teams in Ken Palm ever this year
I
alone.
didn't, wasn't it of the Elite Eight? I think all of them were in top like 15, 16, something like that.
The Elite Eight this year, because of how chalk it was, no, 8 of the top 9 Ken Palm teams were the Elite Eight. The
Yeah,
only team Gonzaga didn't make it because the metrics love them. But yeah, the Elite Eight was 8 of the top 9 Ken Palm teams. So I mean, we didn't have any Cinderellas this year, but the quality of teams that are still alive, it's unmatched. We've never seen something like this before. And I want to ask you one final question before we end this episode.
is
Who
it
are
Kevin
your what?
Kevin Willard question?
No, no, no. We'll talk about that after March Madness. Who are your top 5 players in the Final Four ranked?
That are left.
In the Final Four, yeah.
Well, Flag, Broom, Clayton, um, Flag, Broom, Clayton. How we throw Martin in there? Um, Problem with Houston, it's an ensemble effort. And Uzan looked shaky to me in that last game, but that next guy could be Proctor, it could be Uzan, it could be
Nipple.
yeah, he's had some good games or Pettiford. I mean, I think any of those guys would be the fifth guy.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was thinking about this question. I couldn't go past 3 to tell you the truth with
yeah, I think
Blackburn playing,
top three are clear.
but I was just interested to see if you had a different thought.
And one point I wanted to make is Duke, when they take a guy out, like Malwatch comes out and Gongba comes in, yeah, there's a drop off, but not much. Gongba has been really, really good.
Once he's starting to play, like they wasn't playing earlier in the year. Once he's starting to get his minutes up, he's been productive. He's had some dirty fouls. Watch out.
Yeah, well, hard fouls. But the interesting thing is Duke's bench, while they do have some vets like Gillis and it looks like Brown will play, um, Proctor, Foster, they're also relying on freshmen, and they're going to be matched up against seniors who defend at an elite level. Uh, that'll be a little interesting because Duke's depth has been killer in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, when you got Isaiah Evans, who just doesn't miss from three coming in the game, he's like a spark plug all day. He can get you 15 points in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, it's gonna be interesting to see how he's a skinny guy, how he matches up against Houston's defensive intensity. I mean, this is gonna be the biggest test Duke has faced all year in terms of the defensive end. I know they played Auburn at home, but this is a neutral site. This is the Final Four. The intensity is gonna be, and it's in San Antonio. Um,
Yeah,
intensity is gonna be all the way up.
100%.
But yeah, that's all I got for preview. What about you? Anything you want to leave the people with?
No, it was interesting. There were some home games. Purdue played a home game. Um, Basically Auburn was home.
Yeah, for
Now
sure.
Houston is going to get a home game in the Final Four. Um, just luck of the draw. I mean, Duke travels well.
Yeah.
Florida's going to travel decent. Um, yeah, it should be interesting. But it's great. You want a Cinderella story every once in a while, but sometimes you just want to see the behemoths slug it out.
Yeah.
In
There's
a
no
wrestling, in a
Goliath. It's
wrestling
just
match,
Goliath versus Goliath.
yeah, in a wrestling match, it's Braun Strowman versus Bronson Reed, and the crowd is chanting "meat." That's what you want, and that's what we got. So it should be
Yeah.
interesting.
Let us know in the comments below your predictions for the Final Four games, who you think's coming out on top. I can see any one of these teams holding up the trophy on Monday night. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe, and we will see y'all after the Final Four. Peace.